At a simple small town lives a wild, smart, free-spirited, and a beautiful girl called Bitty. She's different from all the girls in her neighborhood. She has a regular job, but not a regular life. She's crazy about breakdancing and smokes a lot, and no matter what, she loves to do everything big. She believes so much in her unique thoughts and attitude. However, we can't say the same about her parents. Both of them love her so much, but they believe that their reputation in the neighborhood isn't quite good because of her behavior. But what can they do? That's her personality, and she would never change. So they just live with that fact. Anyway, Betty finds all the boys in her neighborhood so controlling and pathetic, and want to change her. So she thought it's impossible to find someone who will accept her as she is. She was so desperate and disappointed, with no hope at all, and started to believe that her parents are better off without her. So she took the biggest decision in her life. She was going to escape and travel far away from home. While waiting at the train station, she bought a book to waste some time, and was surprised when she read the book. It's like the book was written for her. It tells everything about her, what she likes or dislikes. So she returned home and decided to find the writer who wrote that book. The next day, she went straight to a publisher in her area and asked to meet the author desperately. She was willing to do anything to talk to him. The publisher, whose name is Shirag, was in real trouble because he was the real writer of the book. To tell his story, let's begin with his love story that started 5 years ago. He loved the girl deeply, their relationship was going perfectly fine, or that's what he thought, because he was surprised by her sudden wedding to someone else. So after the heartbreak, Shirag cut himself off the world and decided to write a book about his love, and wrote everything about her character from A to Z to tell the whole world about his epic love story. Since everyone in his town knew about his failed love story, he wanted to hide his identity to make sure no one would recognize the girl he was talking about. So he asked a friend of his, called Vidrohi, to put his name and picture on the book instead. Technically speaking, they are not friends. Shirag has always bullied him and forced him to do that. However, to his surprise, no one bought the book, so he lived in despair and sadness until then. He didn't believe that this day would come and someone who's fascinated by his book wanted to meet him. Anyway, Shirag agreed to meet Bitty. Her excitement was on another level when she was talking about the writer and was crazy about meeting him. At first, Shirag told her it's impossible to meet him. However, when he saw her persistence, he told her that the writer is his friend. Whatever she wants to say to him, she can write him a letter, and he will personally deliver it. So Betty started writing all her thoughts and gave it to Shirag. And Shirag, who was the actual writer, started to respond back with another letter. This was the first time Shirag had some action going through his life. So he decided not to reveal the truth, and kept receiving and sending letters in the name of Vidrohi. Day by day, happiness came back to his life, and he started to fall for Bitty. He was so happy with his little secret that brought the smile back to his face. They spent a lot of time hanging out and had so much fun together. Shirag found that her character really resembled the one he was looking for. But it's not about her resemblance to his ex anymore. That time, he fell in love deeply. He thought he could keep hiding the truth until he was ready to tell her. But Bitty wasn't so patient and asked to meet Vidrohi, or she would never write to him again. So Shirag found himself struggling. Should he tell her the truth and confess his love, or would he lose her forever if she knew he was lying? After thinking, he decided to continue with his lie and bring Vidrohi back one more time. He went to get him with a friend of his. Once they got there, they kept bullying him and belittling his job. And then, they tried to force him to come with them. However, Vidrohi refused, saying his life was ruined since his name was on that book, and he had nightmares and had to leave the city thanks to them. So Shirag threatened him to agree, or he would tell his mother that he was just selling saris and not working in a reputable company as she thought. Vidrohi had no choice but to agree. Anyway, Shirag had a plan in mind. He wanted Bitty to hate Vidrohi and love him instead. So he told Vidrohi to act like a gangster in front of Bitty. Since Vidrohi is super nice, it was hard for him to get into the character, until Shirag kept teaching him how to be as low as possible. When Vidrohi was finally ready to be his horrible self, Shirag took him to meet Bitty. At their first meeting, Bitty took her friend with her and was so excited. But once she saw his attitude, she changed her mind completely and left. Shirag didn't want it to end there. He wanted to make sure that Vidrohi was hated by the whole family. So the next day, he took Vidrohi to meet Bitty's family. Vidrohi kept acting as he was told, but unintentionally, his deep good character was all over the place. First, he got the mother a present since it was his first time there, and he didn't want to go empty-handed, and she loved his manners. Then he helped the father with his neck pain and made him feel better. It wasn't long until he was loved by everyone, and Shirag felt he had made the biggest mistake of his life. He kept blaming Vidrohi for everything, and then he decided to end it all immediately. The next day, he took Vidrohi to see Bitty. Vidrohi tried to look like a bully and even said that he had been to prison once. But no matter what he did, Betty knew that he was good inside, so she didn't hate him at all. She even offered him to attend a celebration for her family store. Chirag intervened quickly before things get out of control and told Betty that Vidrohi has to travel back to his town and can't stay. But when Vidrohi saw Betty so disappointed, he decided to go against the plan. He ripped the train ticket and agreed to stay just for Betty. Then Chirag went completely mad at him because he was afraid that he might lose Betty forever. Until Vidrohi told him that he didn't stay for Betty. He actually stayed for her friend Rama and he was in love with her. Knowing that, Chirag was relieved and told Vidrohi that he would support their love story. He told Vidrohi to confess his love to Rama in front of everyone to show his true feelings. Of course, Chirag did that in front of Betty, so she would hate Vidrohi. Everything went according to the plan, but Rama refused Vidrohi. Not because she didn't like him, in fact, she loved him very much since their first meeting. But it was against her beliefs to marry a divorced man. So Vidrohi was confused. He was single and had never been in a relationship. It turned out Chirag had said that behind his back to make Betty dislike him more. For the first time, Vidrohi was fed up and refused to be used anymore. He and Chirag got into a fight, and he made a challenge that he would make Betty fall for him and steal her from Chirag. However, Chirag believed that Vidrohi didn't stand a chance in front of him and wasn't worried at all. He also thought Betty would never accept Vidrohi after his confession to Rama. But he was wrong, because Betty didn't judge Vidrohi at all, and since Rama refused him, she was still willing to give him a chance. Day by day, Vidrohi and Betty became so close. They spent all of their time together, having fun, eating together, and getting her parents' approval as a plus. And Chirag was just beginning to feel like he was third wheeling, and there was no place for him. He regretted not telling Betty the truth from the beginning, and felt it was too late to reveal it back then. He decided to let Betty choose by herself. Then one day, Betty and Vidrohi agreed to get married and printed the wedding invitations, so Chirag tried to tell her not to rush it and to make sure she loves him. But when he found that she made up her mind already, he gave it up and went home heartbroken. Until Vidrohi came to tease him and invited him to the wedding. So Chirag lost his nerves and blamed Vidrohi for stabbing him in the back. But Vidrohi reminded him of how selfish he had been to everyone around him and that he only cared about his feelings. He was right, because after that fight, Chirag went to tell Betty the truth, to ruin her relationship with Vidrohi. But when he saw her happy, he let go of his selfishness for the first time and gave up his love, deciding to be there for her. He helped her parents with the wedding, then he apologized to Vidrohi for all the things he had done to him. And they became friends. And he even wrote him a love letter to give it to Betty on their wedding day. On the wedding day, everything was going just fine. But Vidrohi's voice became hoarse, so he told Chirag to read the letter instead of him. Chirag started reading the letter. He meant every word, since he was the one who wrote it, and was crying for saying goodbye to Betty. Then he was about to go, until Betty showed up and confessed her love to him. She knew everything from the beginning. It turned out that Vidrohi couldn't take it and told her everything about Chirag using him from the very beginning. So she did all of that to force Chirag to show his feelings, and to make sure that he loved her, not the character from the book. The wedding was made for him. Everyone invited knew who was the groom except for him. Chirag couldn't believe it. He was ecstatic that he finally got his love back. The wedding continued and Vidrohi and Rama were together too.